The entire tone of 2026 shifts now that Sonny Dykes has a contract extension. I mean, it's great for Dykes, but it means more pressure on him to perform immediately. Oh, yeah, it's Locked on Horned Frogs. Play my music.
You are Locked on Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? I'm Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, host of the Locked on Horned Frogs podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything TCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. We're going to close out today's episode with one of three reasons that Sonny Dykes needs to have a massive season in 2026, which each segment being a different, in my opinion, explanation or a different avenue on what massive season looks like. Finish top four. That's one way to do it. Beat BYU or another top contending team in the conference. That's one way to do it. But the most simple way to achieve a massive season, the most simple way to have a successful year is to simply be in the hunt. It's something that TCU has not done in the last 3 seasons. If the Frogs can be in the hunt in October, November, this would be a successful season. I don't want to be a goalpost shifter. We've had a lot of conversation about pressure and things like that. I believe pressure comes in different formats. We've had conversations of hot seat or no hot seat. That's over. The hot seat conversation is over. The idea that Sonny Dykes can go from having multiple years on his contract, them giving him more years of security on top of that with a contract extension, and then all of a sudden he's on the hot seat less than 365 days later, to me is far-fetched. To me, it's just not realistic. So if you're one of those people who feel like Dykes didn't deserve his contract extension, if you're one of those people who thinks that Dykes should be on the hot seat, you can feel the former, but the latter, please wrap your head around it's not happening unless something dramatic, something absolutely drastic happens, something as a fan you're not going to want to see. If that happens, okay. But to me, Sonny Dykes needs to justify this. This is no longer a wait and see moment. This is go out there and be a contender in 2026. Go out there and have Jaden Craig be the quarterback that you think he is. Because part of being the coach, especially when you're offensive minded, is being able to pick the right quarterback. Of course, that falls on the offensive coordinator as well. But I think we all know, I'll say 7 to 8 times out of 10, the offensive-minded head coach is going to draw a lot more criticism. I think that if Kendall Briles wasn't a Briles, we would have seen more criticism on the offensive-minded head coach. But like I said, I leave room for 2 or 3 times out of 10 where the OC gets a lot of the blame. But most times the offensive-minded guy is the person who gets the responsibility. They're viewed as the mastermind, things of that nature. In 2026, a massive year looks like October rolls around when you're playing, or November rolls around, and you're playing Utah, Kansas State, Texas Tech, which is the last game of the year. When you're getting into that realm, you are now a contender. You look at 2025, for example, you can point to I always confuse it with mid-October, but it's mid-November. When you lose to Iowa State, that was it. When you lose to Iowa State on November 8th, that was it. That was the end of your Big 12 championship hopes. That was the end of being in the race. That was the end of going through the last 3 weeks and feeling like, oh, we could be a real contender in this thing. That's over with. That's going to BYU, Houston, Cincinnati. And you kind of felt BYU was going to happen the way that it happened. So maybe that's part of the reason it felt over. But you had 3 losses at that point. You end up with 4 on the season. That was it. All she wrote. That's also kind of been the story of the last couple of years. The reason that people are frustrated is not because TCU's final record is ugly. I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, right? Comment, DM me at South Exclusives, join the Everydayer Club, and we can talk about it at length. I don't believe that most TCU fans are upset at the fact that they have 9 wins in each of the last 2 seasons. I think most TCU fans are upset with the fact that the 9 wins have been garnered with a very ugly format. It's been garnered with late finishes. It's been garnered with inconsistency. If you can wipe that off, which I think Dykes is capable of doing. Here's the other thing. Let me make this clear before we continue any further. I'm not saying things that I don't think Dykes can do. I'm not saying things that I don't think Dykes can achieve with the Frogs. Can he achieve it immediately in I say year one, but that's because I view this as a restart. That's why I wouldn't have given him this contract. I viewed it as a restart, but we'll get into that later. If he's able to achieve it in 2026 is the question. If he's able to do that, that's how you justify it. There's no more pressure to keep your job. So in the grand scheme of things, the only person putting pressure on Sonny Dykes is Dykes himself. I'm sure he wants to achieve greatness, right? The only person putting pressure on Sonny is Sonny himself, fans, and people like me with a microphone in front of them. And we can say all of these things that we want to, but the idea of real pressure is whether or not you're going to lose your job. The idea of real pressure is whether or not you're going to be coaching for your job. I get it. He doesn't have that anymore. He doesn't have that aspect. But what he does have is the pressure to live up to expectations. They looked at us and said, we believe in Sonny so much, we want to keep him around for 6 more years. I'm just throwing it out there because he had 3 more years on his contract. And I think they said it was a multi-year extension. So I feel like 2 to 3 years is probably fair. We want to keep Sonny around for the next half decade. We love it. And we know he can do better than what he's doing. Now he has to go out and prove it, simple and plain. These are 3 methods. These are 3 methods that could get it done. But nothing is bigger than being in the race. I don't care if finishing top 4, you're obviously in the race, right? Like if you finish, or excuse me, if you are in the hunt late, you are going to be top 4, period. You don't have to necessarily beat BYU to be in the race. You don't. But if you are in the race and you lose to BYU, I'm still good. I'm still comfortable. Some people will say, I need a championship ASAP. I don't feel that way. Some will say you need a championship game appearance ASAP. I don't feel that way. I think we have to start with the bottom tier of what it looks like. That's step 2 and 3. I need you to be in the race. See, BYU and Sataki, I think he should be feeling some pressure to go get to a championship victory, maybe, right? Because you look at the trajectory of BYU, in 2024, they were one of the better teams in the conference, but they didn't quite get to the championship game. In 2025, they were in the championship game. I'm sure there's pressure in 2026 to go win the championship. I think skipping all the steps up to that will be unfair to Dykes. I think that'll be unfair to Sonny Dykes because you first need to get in the race. You need to be 2024 BYU. That's what you need to be. If you're going to give me this contract, if you're going to show me exactly who you believe Dykes to be, Dykes has to show me who you believe him to be as well. That's the way I view it. And the way for Dykes to show me he is who you think he is to have TCU in the race. That means Jaden Craig needs to be a really good quarterback. That means Jeremy Payne in the running game needs to be activated. That means everybody needs to buy in to what it is that Gordon Samus is teaching immediately on the defensive side of the ball. You need to replace pretty much every one of your main contributors outside of Jamel Johnson, Oyewale, right? Like there's some guys, but as far as stars go, it's just Johnson. It's just Johnson. Gil Jackson has been looking really good, though. He's been looking really good at that boundary corner, right? I think Jacob Fields and Julius Sims are engulfed in a battle to play next to Jamel Johnson. You need all of these things, but you got to be hitting on all cylinders. You have to be hitting on all cylinders. To me, anything less than this means you must achieve one of the other 2 things that we'll talk about as we continue with Locked on Horned Frogs and defining what success looks like post-contract extension for Sonny Dykes.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked on Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. UCLA made history by winning its first NCAA women's basketball national championship, dominating South Carolina 79-51. The Bruins controlled the game from start to finish with elite defense and balanced scoring, finishing the season 37-1. Star center Lauren Betts was named Most Outstanding Player, leading a team effort that capped a 31-game winning streak. Under head coach Corey Close, UCLA secured a landmark title that has been decades in the making. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes. I'm coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked on Horned Frogs, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Make sure you're checking out the Everydayer Club as well. We want to sit here and chop it up about everything March Madness, what happened, right? We want to talk about that. What's up with the transfer portal on both the men's and women's side? Two completely different stories. We want to talk about Dono entering the portal herself. Michael Robinson staying. If you want to get specific with it, we have everything and some more, including ad-free episodes. And I forgot to wear my gear. Tomorrow or Friday, I will wear my Locked On gear. But go ahead and go to LockedOnHornedFrogs.supercast so you can get that, or Locked On, or visit the notes in the show below. The other way to really prove yourself is to beat BYU. That's the thing. We talk about what a game or what a season looks like. That's the easiest and the best way to do it. The best way for the best way for Sonny Dykes to prove that TCU did not make a mistake by extending him is to come out in 2026 and showcase everything that they believe in him is the truth. And that is being one of the better teams in the conference. That's being a contender when November rolls around and not being on life support when it comes around, right? Like, that's the way to do it. But if you can't accomplish that, what else are we willing to accept? Let's not build up to what the main event is. We want that. But if you can't give me that, can you beat BYU? Can you beat Texas Tech? Can you beat Utah? And I'm not asking for you to do all of it. I'm just saying, can you beat one of them? Why do I seemingly drop my standards so low, yet still feel like it reaches the metric of success? I think that's an important question. I go from, in November, you got to be a real contender. You got to be fighting for it. Now it's, hey, look, whatever you do, just beat BYU or Utah or Texas Tech. Within reason. You can't lose all your games and then all of a sudden upset Texas Tech in the last game of the year. That's not going to cut it. But within reason, if you're able to beat one of those teams, it shows that you can actually go toe-to-toe with the conference best. And this is just me assuming that. Let's say we get into the year and let's see who they face late, because they have a tough stretch late. I believe in Fatita. I think he's a really good quarterback at Arizona. Kansas State is a team that I could easily see turning it around, right? Like, if we get to November and any of those two teams, the next two are Utah and Texas Tech, which we've already mentioned. But if we get to November and Arizona is all of a sudden one of the 2 to 3 best teams in the conference, Kansas State is one of the 2 to 3 best teams in the conference, and TCU knocks one of them off, now we're talking about a conversation where you accomplish the exact same thing I was looking for if it was Utah, Texas Tech, BYU. The reason I isolate those 3 teams is because as you go through the schedule, this is the conference schedule for TCU. UCF, BYU, Baylor, West Virginia, Kansas, Arizona, Kansas State, Utah, Texas Tech. Who do you feel confident is going to be good in that bunch? I think UCF turning it around in year 2 of the Scott Frost era, I think, okay, that's a gamble. It's Baylor. Baylor. Do I need to say any more? Right? Ask Cam Stewart. Ask Drake Toll. It's Baylor. Right? Dave Aranda may not even be the head coach by the time October 17th rolls around. I'm just talking the truth. West Virginia. Love you, Mountaineer Paul. I don't know if we necessarily are looking at that as a team who can compete in the high end. Beating West Virginia does not send a message. Kansas. Maybe Maybe, maybe, but I don't think there's confidence now. Arizona, I'm probably one of the higher people on Arizona. Kansas State, I don't think people are high on them. So when you start going through the conference, I have teams I'm personally high on. You probably have teams you're personally high on. But objectively, and I'm not going to say universally, but as a collective, right? As a collective, as a majority, BYU, Utah, Texas Tech. I think they're the only team to play all three. But if you can win one of them, it shows you can compete. It's kind of similar to TCU men's basketball, where they were able to knock off an Iowa State. They were able to knock off a Texas Tech. But before that, they were going toe-to-toe with Kansas, BYU, Arizona, right? Like they were going toe-to-toe with these teams. Houston, for a period of time, in all those matchups, TCU was going toe-to-toe with the best teams in the Big 12. So when they were able to turn it around and beat Iowa State and beat Texas Tech, it wasn't a shocker. We may have got tired of seeing them get close but not quite cut it. But those close games were just a prelude to what we saw later in the season, where you knocked off 2 top 15 teams. That is building up. It's a little different with football because we're talking about going from 26 to 27 and having this faith, but it's still close enough, in my opinion, to constitute a successful season. Because now it feels like, oh, you can play with the big boys. Because when was the last time that TCU won a big game, beat a big time team to me, right? Let's say it that way. When was the last time that TCU beat a big time team in the Big 12? They won a big time game versus North Carolina, no doubt. North Carolina's butt cheeks. They're not good. All right, they just weren't good. They beat Houston, which was a top 25 win. It felt ugly. It felt ugly. And I think most people were looking at Houston as frauds. They were on fraud alert, but they had questions, right? Like they could be for real. Maybe they fraud. So maybe your answer is Houston. I'd accept that. I'd accept it. The year before that? Year before that? And we've criticized these teams. We've criticized these teams in the past for not being good enough. The first time there was some optimism walking out of the season for real, or not. Let me backtrack that. Let me not say the first time. Right? But I feel like the optimism was a tad bit greater, especially because of that USC game. But it was because you were able to win big games. That Houston game, I'm gonna put air quotes, big game. I think it's right on the fence. You could say big game, you could say not quite. Right? I'm cool either way. The USC Alamo, Ken Seals, the River Walk-Off, like all of that was a big-time moment. You won big-time games, so now you had optimism. But I also think there was kind of an asterisk on each of those big-time games. But follow me. If the big-time games versus USC, even though the whole opt-out situation from both sides, if the big-time game with Houston, even though we question, are they frauds? If there's a little bit of optimism that walks out of the season due to those two games, imagine what is the optimism level walking out of 2026 if you beat a BYU, right? No. What if you beat a Texas Tech after having a pretty solid season, not great, but a pretty solid season, and you beat a team that's one of the best in the conference? What if you beat Utah? Those are your last two games. If you win one of those, you close out with a bang of, oh, I see the vision. I'm not asking for TCU to beat BYU specifically, Utah specifically, Texas Tech specifically. What I'm saying is, if Sonny Dykes wants to justify the contract extension and say, look, this is why they believed in me, go win a big game. And don't wait till a bowl. Don't wait till the season feels already over. Go win a big game against a true contender. And those are the three that are most obvious as choices on your schedule right now. Let's get into the last metric and what I believe to be the absolute bare minimum. If Sonny Dykes and TCU do not pull this off in 2026, it's not going to be the season that we wanted it to be. It's going to be another failure. Let's get into this as we continue with Locked On Horned Frogs. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. With all of the deadlines stacking up, why are you still operating with one less person than you should? Probably because you can't find someone who actually meets the needs, checks the boxes, does everything that it is you are looking for out of that position because no one's qualified in walking in. Hello, Indeed, specifically Indeed sponsored jobs. In the minute that I'm going to be talking to you, 27 hires will be made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Indeed sponsored jobs helps you reach people who actually fit what you're looking for from a skills, experience, and location standpoint. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. You're looking for them and making sure that they find you. Spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who actually check the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Today's episode is also brought to you by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swap trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked on Horned Frogs, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. You see, I'm rocking that El Bombi. I'm rocking that El Bombi, that Texas Rangers, right? It's baseball time, y'all. It's baseball time. Anywho, as we keep our eyes moving forward towards TCU football, what I think Sonny Dykes also needs to do is, if nothing else, TCU needs to finish top 4 in the conference. I'm talking absolute bare minimum. The most surefire way to grade whether or not this season was a success is if they're able to be in the hunt, right? Like, this is what we're doing. We're working backwards. We're starting big and we're doing like a funnel, right? So we're starting large on what the best case scenario is. The easiest way to determine that was a successful season. Sonny Dykes justified his contract extension. That's to be in the race late. The second biggest way is to beat a top-tier team. So it actually feels like there's hope moving forward that you're capable of being one of those, right? This is also a way, finish top 4. Last year, the conference standings went Texas Tech, BYU, Utah, and then there was a little bit of a mashup between Houston, Arizona, and Arizona State. They were all 6-3 in conference play specifically. But Houston was 10-3. I think Houston was probably looked at as the best of the bunch. I would say this: if you can have a Houston type year, we can have a conversation. Because I think if TCU is mid-November and you're questioning whether or not they're a true contender, which is what Houston was, right? Houston was in that conversation, and then they lost to West Virginia. That was actually November 1st, but I remember that was the last 5 games. Everybody, when they lost to West Virginia, we all said, fraud. We knew it the whole time, fraud. They hadn't played nobody. You beat Texas Tech. You lost to Texas Tech, the one team you actually played who was worth a you-know-what, but you had one loss. You was out here beating Oklahoma State. That Arizona game was close. You knocked off Arizona State after that, but then you lose to West Virginia at home. We all said fraud, But in general, would you rather TCU be like, all right, we're on the outside looking in, or the question is TCU a fraud or not? I'm gonna speak for me. I'd rather take the latter. I think that's a better situation. And also looking at the schedule, the idea of TCU finishing top 4 yet still being a fraud, the idea that TCU didn't play anybody if they finished top 4, that's not possible. That's not possible. TCU plays Baylor, or excuse me, they play BYU, they play Utah, and they play Texas Tech. Yes, it's uniquely possible, actually, as I get into it. But I just happen to have more faith in some of these teams, right? Like, I don't think Baylor is an easy game purely from a rivalry standpoint. I don't think the Arizona is going to be an easy game. I don't think Kansas State's going to be an easy game. I don't think your entire last month is easy. I don't even know that UCF is going to be easy, right? Like, I think that Central Florida game has the ability to be tough. I don't think you're going to get an easy road towards November. So if they're in the conversation for being a contender, if they finish top 4, you finish top 4, you're not in that race. You're not in that class. Last year it was a 2.5 to 3 team race. Texas Tech was clearly the best team. BYU was clearly the second best team. And Utah was clearly better than everybody else. And then you start getting a conversation for 4. If you can have that 4th place, which is not what they've had recently, if you can have that at least tells me that you're close. It tells me that you're close. In 2024, they finished 5th. So right on the outside looking in. And there was 4 teams with a 7-2 record. That was a real jam-packed season there. 2023, we don't even need to get into that. 2023 was just an ugly season, right? And then last year, they finished 7th, 3, 6, 7. Yeah. So they finished 7th in the conference. If you can finish top 4, it at least tells me you're close. And that's all I'm actually needing. The actual bare minimum, absolute least amount of proof you can give me is we're close. Because I don't think TCU has been close since they were there. That's my personal opinion. I don't think in 2023, obviously they weren't close. I don't think they were close in 24. I don't think they were close in 25. It's one of the reasons I criticized the decision to extend him so early. My idea for 2026 was Gordon Samus's first year. You're bringing in a new system. Everything's going to be fresh. This is a pivotal year to showcase, hey, everything I sold you is going to pay off. Now give me the extension. That's what I thought. I thought Buddy talked about how they liked the plan and everything that came with Sonny. I get it. I respect it. I absolutely accept it. But I'm going to throw on top of that, look, you got to prove it in 2026. They said, we believe in you so much. We believe what you said so much. We trust and like your vision so much that we don't need you to provide proof of concept. We trust and think you made the right moves. It's now on Sonny to go in and justify that. I don't think that's asking for too much. I don't think that's being unfair. That is not shifting the goalpost. I thought there was pressure on Sonny to perform. They said, Now I say there's pressure on him to perform to justify. You don't have to perform to save, but you got to perform to justify, because it's a head-scratching decision to me. And if you do nothing else in 2026, at least be in that top 4, somewhere you haven't been since you were number 1. Please at least make it to where at the end of the season, you are not an afterthought. Go beat a top level team. Show me that you can actually compete with the big boys. And if you really want to make this year a success, if you really want to justify and say, all my haters, all my doubters, forget all that. If you really want to say Darian Gray, AKA the mouth of the South, this is why they gave me the extension. Go out there and be in the competition, at least be in the hunt for a Big 12 title game appearance in mid-November. I haven't been able to see that the last couple of years. If that happens, though, I'll shut up. All right, that's as long as I'm shutting up. In the meantime, in between time, I'm back to talk again tomorrow and the next day. If you want me to be quiet, wait until Saturday. Then I won't have nothing to say. And Sunday, too. In the meantime, in between time, until next time that we hear each other, family, take care. Stay blessed. Peace.